Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's their time and bandwidth. Today's game is Middle-earth Shadow of War. Bigger, badder, and more badass, Shadow of War aims to take the framework of its predecessor and ramp it up to 11. But does this Mordor war simulator pan out? Let's find out. Middle-earth Shadow of War is a sequel to the excellent Shadow of Mordor, with it maintaining elements of its Ubisoft-inspired open-world design, but leaning heavily into the Nemesis system in new and exciting ways. Story-wise, Talion and Celebrimbor have decided to make a newer, cooler ring to fight Sauron, and theirs is better because it's blue. Unfortunately, literally seconds after finishing it, they lose it to Shelob, who is now a waifu instead of a spider for some reason, and have to go off to defend Minas Ithil from becoming Minas Morgul. Luckily, they get their ring back pretty quick, so they can go back to dominating orcs, and the story goes from there. What you are here for is the new gameplay. The structure overall hasn't changed much, as you're tossed into maps with towers to claim and full of collectibles and stuff to do, but there are 5 maps this time instead of Mordor's 2, and while they're smaller, they're much more dense and interesting to explore. Combat's also pretty similar, with the Arkham-style one-button attack and counter, though Talon's new kit is considerably more powerful, making grunts a little more than fodder. The big changes are the upgrade systems and the improved Nemesis system. You now only get XP from captains, not grunts, and this feeds into a more traditional level up system where you unlock core abilities and then unlock one of several augments for them. Gear also now plays a huge role, as you get it from captains and can equip stuff like sets, and of course there's a whole host of new currencies to upgrade stuff or buy new stuff that you'll be gathering as you explore. Like the first game, you get the power to dominate orcs and their captains, and this system has been considerably more fleshed out. Now you can send orc captains to do all sorts of stuff like assassinate other leaders, infiltrate warlords as bodyguards, or be your own bodyguard to summon in tough fights. Once you have yourself an army, you strike at a fortress in a big battle where you and your horde push your way through the base until finally killing the warlord and conquering the region. After this, you move to the next area and do it again. This also ties into the multiplayer, where you can invade other people's bases with your orcs for loot and glory, as well as get invaded yourself, though thankfully you don't lose your base if they beat you. This loop is punctuated by side story missions for each faction that can unlock more abilities, as well as the usual collectibles you'll grab all over the map. And honestly, that's Shadow of War. More systems, but really leaning heavily into the domination and nemesis system, with lots of quality of life improvements and a larger, more interesting world to explore. What do I like about Shadow of War? Well, the nemesis system in this game is so good, I really don't think I can oversell it. Not just because it keeps gameplay emergent and dynamic, with orcs ambushing you, seeking revenge for blood brothers, or popping back to life to harass you. The emergent storytelling that happens here is better than the game's actual story. Additionally, these smaller zones are much better than the original games. They're not only denser and have more stuff, but the landscapes are more interesting, providing funner platforming, and they all have distinct, gorgeous visual layouts. And lastly, the new abilities and quality of life improvements can't be overstated. While in Shadow of Mordor you felt like a superhero, in War you feel like a god. When it comes to the bad, having to do the same fortress sieges 4 times over the course of the game, with you needing to grind up new commanders in each area, does get a little dull. Not to mention the end game to get the real ending is a slog of base defenses that leaves the experience on a sour note. Speaking of ending, this game's story is all over the place. The leniency with the lore is one thing, but the main issue is the story is just dull overall, especially compared with the emergent storytelling. And lastly, while the Gotham-style combat worked in the first game, it definitely breaks more when moving to larger battles, where you need more precise targeting for abilities. As you know, I rank games here on a 3-point scale: must play, maybe consider, and don't bother. And Shadow of War is everything a sequel should be. It expands on what made the first game unique in all the right ways, adding a ton of new regions to explore, and leaning heavily into making the Nemesis system unforgettable. It is a shame that the story falls pretty flat, and the endgame's a bland grind, but hey, at least they took the microtransactions out, and I think I can still definitely give this my wholehearted recommendation. This is this type of open world game at its absolute peak, and you should check it out if you haven't already. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you played Middle-earth Shadow of War, did you play it when it had the microtransactions? That's actually why I waited to play it until now. But hey, it's great now. So let me know what you think in the comments, and then go out there and give Shadow of War a look.